right, welcome back, guys. So where were we? We decided to just become a full-time bodybuilder. What ended up happening though is we went through what was supposed to be the whole bulking phase, and then we were supposed to start cutting. I didn't. I ended up not cutting because I was looking at pictures of other open bodybuilders online, even pros, and I was like, I can't compete with those guys. And obviously, does like, dude, you've been like specifically training for this for just a few months. What do you expect? So I chickened out. I decided not to compete. I continued my bulk. I went from 190, which was already quite heavy at that point in time, all the way up to 210. And we were progressing. We were doing really well. And actually, this was a big, this was really a huge landmark year for me because it was the year I kind of shied away from muscle magazines and looked into other resources. Uh, I ended up reading this book right here. So, Super Training by, see that, Dr. Mel Sif. And rest in peace, by the way. Uh, I read it twice to just kind of understand the book, and it left me with a whole lot of just questions that needed to be answered, especially at that point in time. I was just really in love with everything. It was like definitely the honeymoon phase, not just when it comes to training, but discovering how stuff works. So after reading that and having a whole lot of questions that needed to be answered, I just started to learn more and more when it comes to specifically training. And nutrition was still like all over the place. I was eating somewhere between 5 and 7K calories a day, just trying to pile on the weight as fast as I could. Um, so we end up progressing obviously really well because we go from 190 to 210. Duh, you have physics on your side. That's going to happen. But also because we were training pretty soundly, and what ended up happening is I was probably progressing too quick, if anything. And when you think about it, a year ago at this point, I was an endurance athlete. I was 130 pounds, and here I am like 210 a year later. So a lot of the other structures outside of the muscle tissue that was moving the weight just was not ready to handle that stuff. And there was a point where I was benching triples at 210, mind you, so it's not quite as impressive. And with a little bounce, most likely, cross grip too, which probably led to the injury. Somewhere between 370 to 385, and yeah. So what ended up happening was just the left shoulder gave out. I panicked because that was actually the first time I've ever felt that. It was probably worse than the injury that got me out of track and field. That was just like frustrating, whereas this was just like it really broke my heart because I was really in love with this. So my solution was actually to continue eating, and that wasn't a good idea. So I'm training less, not training upper body at all, and and I'm eating just as much, maybe even more, because I was so stubborn and wanted to progress. Um, so eventually what ended up happening is it just got worse to the point where just doing certain things that like I would do on a leg day, like stiff leg deadlifts and holding the bar, holding and at the time I felt like I needed to squat. Just holding the squat up was an issue. So I stopped training altogether, and that kind of put me in a not so good place. And this is where I actually kind of talk about this in my video about why I decided to be a drug-free bodybuilder, and just kind of how that wasn't always as clear cut, and there was some challenges along the way, some temptation actually. And yeah, at this point in time, coming back from the injury, is I was starting to come back and train again, and I just felt like I lost. You have all this momentum going, it stops. Especially at that age, I wasn't handling it right, so I wasn't very motivated, not as motivated as I was before. Missing workouts, stuff like that, just not in a good place. So when pro hormones were still around, I was like really considering them. I'll link you guys up to that video so you guys can get the whole scoop on that story. But what ended up happening was actually I ended up meeting someone who was very vital at that point in time to my development as a lifter. He was actually younger than I, and ironically, this person is now an IFBB pro. But I had never, like, he was just as in love with weight training as I was, and I think that really helped me a lot to see him, just make it a priority every single day. So yeah, that was what years 5 through 6 at this point look like. Progressed really well. Some hardships, didn't really handle them well, but it taught me a lot. Came out of that, and thankfully, because of my buddy, I got my stuff together, and we started progressing again. And I would say, to kind of give you a preview of what happens next time, um, I ended up having issues with comparing myself to others. Ended up being a major distraction, and we'll go over that in the next video. So I'm training again. Things are going really well, but like most young men, I'm just kind of, my head's on a swivel, and it's not letting me be the best me that I can be. So that's what we're going to go over next. But this is what happened during this segment in time. All right, and on to what we did this week. All right, so snatch, grip, deadlift. We're going with this one because it lets me keep the bar close to me, which is something I really need given the fact that, again, I'm battling some issues with my SI joint, and typically, again, so mobility, pliability is not an issue, not for me anyways. It's more so just that thing back there is kind of unstable at times, and what this movement lets me do, first of all, it lets me keep the bar super close to me. It's really hard to let the bar get away from you, which is vital at this point. And then also just feels super natural to me, super hip hingy, which again, I need more back there. So it makes total sense. And then just your upper back and just T-spine are so lit up. I absolutely love this movement. And we're just going to, and obviously we're kind of limited on the loads that we can use, but just because of the range of motion and the rep ranges that I'm working it in, the point to its purpose right now is to just kind of get me strong and just get me to the point where I can structurally just handle pulling off the floor again. So we will be doing this for a while, I guess, progressing pretty slowly, but eventually we will go back to either some conventional or sumo deadlifts. Both. I think for me, there's like a 5-7% difference between my sumo and my conventional. And the truth is, I can't really even say that that's the case because I practiced sumo so much more during my last off season that perhaps had I done more conventional pulling, that might have been my stronger variation. But yeah, we're doing this for now. And again, it felt good just to pull off the floor. And then it was really nice to not feel totally wrecked, or at least in an unhealthy way afterwards. And then always the day after tells me, was that a good idea or not? And every snatch, grip, deadlift session I've had so far, the day after, I feel great. So that's a good sign. And of course, like I said, posterior chain, everything from the back is just a huge priority, which includes hamstrings. This is, I guess, my main variation, my choice variation for a hamstring curl, if you will. As you can see, I have my hands on my hips to kind of shorten up the leverage, just because on this day, reps are a bit higher. On days where I am not going for as many reps, I usually move up my hands to about my chest level. Weighted chins are also in this block, and they're going to play a vital role, I hope, in really helping me bring up my back width. A lot of these movements, slowly over time, I just hope to be able to include more free weight movements, because again, the issue is that quite often I find myself not at home, and when you're using very specific machines, sometimes it's really hard to stay true to your progression schemes when you're not near your equipment. So with free weights, it's kind of nice because, again, a squat's going to be a squat anywhere. Dumbbells, weighted chin-up variations, all those things, I can take with me. So I really, really hope to slowly get more of those going and just rely a little bit less on machines. So let's see, what else? Pressing is definitely going to be down a little bit during this training block, just because I'm making a bit more room for my back movements. And if it goes really well, I maybe maintain strength or maybe even get a little stronger, I'll probably continue that and just keep seeing how much I can get away with, or how little I can get away with doing when it comes to not necessarily strong body parts, but body parts that, again, aren't necessarily lacking as much as others. We have to throw a seal row video in here, which again, this movement's kind of been down of late, and I think a lot of it has to do with just all the stuff I'm doing for my back throughout the week. So it just doesn't feel as twitchy as it usually does. But I think that's okay. I think over time we'll acclimate, and then also just as volume tapers down right around January, we should see this come back. 255 for 3 is the goal. Highlight of this week was the fact that I was able to squat, and in this next squat video, you're going to see that actually on my third rep, I kind of lose my groove a little bit, and I lived to tell about it. So that was really promising, and they felt decently fast, and I felt like I knew where all my parts were, and I was not fighting my own body. So again, a few good training blocks on this, and I really think that, man, I would not be surprised if come, say, March, April, I'm back to around the 1,300-ish pound total, and from there just kind of start marching towards that 1,400, which is a goal this offseason. So again, things are going well. More free weight movements in there, which I absolutely love, and of course a lot of rowing movements, because I want my back to look totally different next time I get up on stage. But that is it. So next few weeks, a lot of snatch, grip, deadlifts, squats, and a jacked back for Christmas, I hope. That's it. I'll leave it there. Thank you once again, guys.